All right, folks, this is your favorite ex-Muslim atheist, and welcome to another episode of Sultan's House of Sin, along with my fellow sinner, John Richards.
I'm a heathen.
All right, so you are a fellow heathen, but because
guilty as charged.
Because I am gonna put you on the spot, because today is 15th of August and yesterday was 14th of August. Do you know the importance of it?
I should do, because it does ring a bell, but you know, you're expecting me to have a memory, aren't you? My memory is actually in here. That's where my memory there.
Well, let me refresh your memory then. 14th of August, 1947, Pakistan came into being when we kicked out you white folks from our beautiful country. And today is 15th of August, which is actually the true Independence Day for both India and Pakistan, but Pakistanis couldn't have the same day as India, so they actually decided to move it one day back. So that's another topic. But happy Independence Day to India, happy Independence Day to Pakistan. And a lot of people say whether we deserved independence or not because of the way we're treating our countries these days. A different topic. I am totally mum on that. I am not saying one way or the other. But happy Independence Day nonetheless. Pakistan, my country of birth, however shaky the foundations were, how confused our founding fathers were, let's put it all behind us. That is by no means, that means that we should not look forward and try to make a country better. So just to make this Independence Day all much better than what it has always been, I have an ex-colonialist with us, and he is going to apologize for colonizing our country, and he's going to wish you happy Independence Day. How's that, John?
Happy Independence Day, everybody, everywhere. And let's try and get on together, to get on well together. You know, no fighting. It's naughty. Don't fight. But of course, back then, I was a small boy, so I accept no responsibility for what my ancestors did, and I know very little about it either. My interests were mainly in, I don't know, botting down stinging nettles with a stick. That was what I did in my childhood.
Right. So no apology from John himself, but as he made a very good point, that he is not responsible for it, because these days it's become fashionable that we just beat down the white dude because, you know, of all the problems and evils in the world were caused by white people, but not just ancient white people or ancestors of these guys, but also these guys are responsible for it. So they have to be like, I'm so sorry, I have to apologize. So obviously that is the wrong attitude. Nobody's responsible for their father's sins, unless you're a Christian, of course. Right.
Yes. Then we've all got to repay the debt that Eve gave us.
Exactly. And Jesus came thousands and thousands of years later, and he tried to repay it.
Yes.
All right. So should we get it underway?
Well, can I tell you a bit about my disaster of yesterday?
Oh, please do.
The trials and tribulations of YouTubers.
All right.
Yeah, because I do my usual global atheist news thing, of course, and I incorporated a Netflix trailer, because they've done this fabulous documentary on Pray Away. The title is Pray Away. And the idea is to follow the exploits of some gay people in the States who set up what became known as conversion therapy, right?
Right.
And
gay conversion therapy.
Exactly. Yes. So they decided, because they were they were I think they were Baptists. You know, they're very much into the evangelical realm of branch of Christianity, And so they wanted to be good Christians. And of course, the Bible says you can't be a good Christian if you're gay. And they were labeled choosing a lifestyle rather than having a genetic situation. So they set up this organization that was called Exodus International. And the idea was you could leave your gayness if you just received the right sort of treatment. And of course, years later, we know that there is no treatment. It is a genetic condition. And they, having set up this organization and got 25,000 people interested in being converted, they then had to keep secret the fact, the dark secret, that they weren't converted themselves, that they still had, despite all their so-called treatment, they still had these feelings of attraction for the same sex. And it's a great movie, a documentary. Go and watch Pray Away. It's on Netflix. But unfortunately, Netflix objected to me incorporating it in Global Atheist News, despite the fact that it's embedding, and embedding is like a gift. You're giving somebody a bit of extra publicity free. And I've successfully done it with the BBC, they don't mind, with Al Jazeera and a number of other sources, they don't mind. But Netflix came up with this condition that it couldn't go out in anything that was monetized. Okay, well, that's fine until the day before YouTube monetized my channel.
Oh, congratulations.
I wasn't to know. But this meant that my whole Global Atheist News show was attacked, I guess, by Netflix because of their copyright infringement. So the screen went black after a few minutes and the sound went off. And then there was pictures of me and other people with their voices moving, nothing coming out. So I've had to redo the whole of my Global Atheist News this morning, taking out the offending Netflix clip. And it's rendered now, and I'm just going to upload it as a podcast a day late.
This is the reason why I told you it's very important that you don't show any other footage, because you just never know. So anyway.
But you see, BBC don't mind. In fact, if you look at their copyright policy, they say you can use it for pretty much any purpose. So I do. Yeah.
Oh, so BBC is good, but it's just okay. Okay, fair enough. Okay. I thought, look, see, again, it's not that I know that they go out and deliberately tell us don't use it, but I know that the YouTube's software itself picks it up through it's called Content ID Creator or something. It automatically sends you like, no money can be made of this.
Right.
If you keep it monetized, we're going to share the revenue and send the information of your stats to the original copyright content creator.
Well, that was fine. That was fine until YouTube monetized me.
Right. Okay. Oh, yes, exactly. Of course. Now you don't want to give them a penny, those bastards.
The other complaint, the other gripe I've got to make is that I also set up Free Thought Hour, which is the show that follows my Global Atheist News on a Saturday night. Well, night here, but in your own time zone, feel free to call it whatever hour you like. But the thing is, I'd organized for the president of Atheist Alliance International, to be my guest on that show.
Right.
And he didn't turn up. And so so I did 3 minutes explaining that he hadn't turned up. And then I discovered through another contact that a tree has fallen down near where he lives. And he was deprived of power and internet. So
I think that's a fairly reasonable excuse not to be part of your global atheist convention or atheist whatever.
Free Thought Hour.
Free Thought Hour. That's it.
We understand why he couldn't turn up.
Okay, I think that's understandable. But he should have let you know, or maybe written you a letter or something. But I think that's okay.
It could be in the post,
All right, so let's start the show. And last week or the week before, we shared with you how these embarrassing verses of the Quran are getting so embarrassing for these people that they have to blatantly change. One thing about Islam is they take a lot of pride in the fact that it has always remained the same, the way it was given to Prophet Muhammad, revealed to Prophet Muhammad, word by word, dot by dot, even though the dots were added later on, but it's remained the same. That is the central core of the ideology and a big source of pride, that's why we have to follow it letter by letter, because it's been preserved letter by letter. So Arabic, yes.
Well, what they don't like to mention, of course, is that Muhammad destroyed all the original copies of the Quran, and new ones had to be constructed from memory.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I don't think Muhammad destroyed it. It stayed there. It was just scattered everywhere. So Muhammad didn't actually order the destruction of it. But some of it there were some parchments that were supposedly written, and some parts were kept with some other Sahaba. But anyway, you're right. The end goal was it was actually put down from memory. So they can't change the actual Arabic, although I'm not so very sure about it, because I think it's going to start happening very soon, because we know they've been playing with interpretation for a very long time, but now they're blatantly changing the meanings, starting with the gullible English audience, because we need white converts. We need them blue-eyed, blonde-haired white converts for our brothers, right? Have a look at this one. So this is one such chapter. It's for, I think, chapter 38, verse 44. It says, originally, what it says, actually, I think I should open that one up, what it says originally. Okay. So this is the original one, as you can see. Which is, not even that bad, but they still had to change it. Okay, so chapter 38, verse 44, Surah Sad, it says, and it was said unto him, we're talking about Ayub or Jacob, take in thine hand a branch and smite therewith. Okay, that's a very terrible English. And take in your hand a bunch of grass, but it actually says bunch, but it could be anything. Some people loosely interpret it as a branch, and strike with it, and do not break your oath. So those of you who don't know the context is Ayub fell sick, or Jacob fell sick. I think Jacob is Ayub, right? Anyway, in English. So Prophet Jacob fell sick, and his wife was looking after him. But one day he got so angry because for some reason, she didn't change his diaper quickly enough. I'm just adding that part. But there was some reason that he wasn't happy, and he vowed to God that when I get better, I am gonna give her 100 lashes for being a disobedient wife. But then a few days later, when she kept looking after him, he was like, maybe I shouldn't punish her now, because I can forgive her for one day of disservice. So when he got better, he said, oh God, what do I do now? I am not going to, I'm not gonna, how can I punish her? Because she's been so good to me, but I don't want to break my oath either. So then this verse was revealed. It said, take in your hand a bunch whatever, and strike with it, and do not break your oath. Indeed, we found him patient and excellent servant indeed. Indeed, he was one repeatedly turning back to Allah. So what a good man that is. Like just out of one day of anger, he decided to give 100 lashes. So what are they doing now with this embarrassing verse? How can you, why could God not say, just let it go? I release you from your oath, just like God released Prophet Muhammad from his oath. As you guys know, one day Prophet Muhammad was caught having sex with his wife Hafsa's maid, Maria. And when Hafsa got upset, Prophet Muhammad said, oh, I promise, I take a vow, an oath, that I will not touch her again. But the condition is you're not going to tell any of my other wives, like Aisha, and the naughty one, Aisha especially. So, but Hafsa broke that promise, and she went on and she told Aisha as well. So verse came from the Quran. It said, "O Prophet, I release you from your oath," because they didn't keep it. So I release you from your oath. So why could God, Allah, not release Ayub from his oath, or Jacob from his oath? Well, that is the embarrassing part, because God didn't care. So he said, you know what? Since you made a promise to me, just take a bunch of grass. And I hit her with it. Okay, it's not as bad as hitting her with a branch, but still is embarrassing. Why beat her? Anyway, that was it. So what they changed the meaning to now, take a handful of herbs, we said to him, handful of herbs, and apply and rub them.
Slap her with parsley.
Yes. So they are changing the entire meaning, I think, and we shared with you last week what they did with the previous one. Where is it? Sorry, 10 and 20, the 6th of August, I think it was in. Do we have it? Human being, if you're listening, can you send it to me? Because no, there it is. Let me get the infamous wife beating verse, as we all know, and I think everyone knows now, every Muslim knows that now. This is the one that says, men are in charge of women, as for those whom you fear rebellion, not who are rebellious, whom you fear rebellion, admonish them, banish them to beds apart, and scourge them. In other places, it says beat them. So that's the infamous 434, the embarrassing verse. Look the same website. I wanted to change the meaning to the men are the support of women. As for women you feel are averse, talk to them suasively, then leave them alone in bed without molesting them. Ooh, thank you very much for telling us molestation is bad. And go to bed with them when they're willing. Where's the third step? Scourging them or beating them. If they open out to you, do not seek. And they took it all out. So, as far as wife beating is concerned, they know they're hearing us. They're getting the point. They're like, that's pretty bad. So they can't change the Arabic. What they can do is change the meaning and fool you white folks.
What distresses me here, Harris, is as a retired science teacher, I think that information is the more important stuff. I'm not keen to value narrative. These are all stories of one sort and another. So why should we be elevating them into something significant? If we realize that narrative is, down here as a source of information, and evidence or, observations of the natural realm is up here as a source of information, then we wouldn't have to cherry pick the bits we like out of here, would we?
No.
We just dismiss the whole thing and go for that stuff.
Exactly. And, well, that's just how it is, because it is all embarrassing and they can't really get out of that. Anyway. All right. So we're going to take one of the couple of calls from our patrons, because, and there's a female here. I think it would be important to take her input. Zara, hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Harris.
What would you like to say?
I like to say that I was very angry at you, and then I calmed myself down.
Wow.
So the thing is that you've been against Hindutva.
Yes.
And it's unreasonable. I think it's very, very unfair.
Against Hindutva?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
You
okay.
don't know. I mean, why go to India when when I lived in Pakistan most of my life, right? We have such dishonesty, Punjabi, Kashmiri professional, this Dr. Farooqi Ahmed, professional, like cunning deception, right? First, we should clean our corner, don't you think? Before going to India and saying things against India.
It's not against India. It's not against India. How do you answer those people who are from India and they agree with my view of, or it's in line with my view of politics? How do you say India is this or India is that? When we criticize certain elements, we're criticizing those elements within that.
Mhm.
As far as you're concerned, you're saying that why not fix Pakistan and before
Yes.
talking about Indian issues, Pakistan or any other country will never be fixed. We can apply the same argument here. Why don't you fix Australia first? Because Australia has a lot of issues too. Then talk about Pakistan, or then talk about anything else. So that argument never works, because how things work is things always happen simultaneously. You can do
Yes.
multiple things at the same time. However,
Yes.
human
I agree
rights.
with that.
One more point.
Sorry.
Human rights is what I talk about. So especially when I'm speaking in India and I have such a large audience in Hindi or Urdu, it is incumbent on me to talk about the human rights issues whenever I see it. And I'm going to talk about it today as well. And I'm going to tell you why it's so important to talk about it. And sorry, John, what did you like to say?
A couple of things here. It's very dangerous to generalize about any country, especially India, which is so diverse and huge, different populations. You can't really say Indians do this or Indians like that. Second point, this is an example of whataboutism. Just because we're talking about one thing that maybe we disapprove of, doesn't mean that we've got to solve some other problem or have the moral high ground ourselves. We're not perfect either.
Yes, that's true. But the thing is that I feel that Sultan has been generalizing about, that's the point, generalizing about Hindutva.
Yeah, well, I think that's what...
I think you compared Modi with General Ziaul Haq.
Yeah, it's
and I listen to Kushal. Okay, I agree with you. I'm in UAE. If something is against, something's happening here in the UAE, there are violations of human rights. I would speak against that, right?
You can't.
I would.
Kick out. You can't.
No, I do. I haven't been kicked out.
Well,
I am from Emirat.
I know a lot of people in Emirates who live. They cannot talk about it. They will be kicked out. So tell us. So I mean, actually, John, I'm not going to dare you to do it, because then it can really turn your life upside down. I know you can't talk about any human rights abuses, even in a modern global city like Dubai as well. You can't. No,
I love them, and there are certain things I've known, and then I checked on YouTube. I have to, like, about the camel jockeys, those child camel jockeys and all. So I do. Maybe my life will be upside down. Maybe I'll be thrown in jail. But I love UAE and I want the best. So I talk about human rights, and you can check my videos, my Facebook. Mostly I'm live stream there.
Okay.
But I think that about back to this Modi and General Ziaul Haq, I think you have exaggerated about Modi.
I think time will tell that. Let me tell you, because I think time will tell that what is going to be the damage. Because what I see, and I know Kushal, I've spoken with him at length, and I think we've both given up on each other. So Modi, ever since you look at it, here's two sides of the coin. People like Kushal say that is not whatever's happening now, all the Hindutva and this aggressive anti-Muslim bigotry that we're seeing in India right now, it has always existed. In that case, it means India has always been horrible for minorities. That's point number one. Point number two, my point that I say that no, I don't think India was always like that. Yes, there were isolated incidents of riots, but generally, people were far more tolerant of each other's ways. And it still says people are actually very tolerant of each other, as we saw in the last Pew survey, and I've done a detailed video on that in Urdu. I think I didn't do it in English. I think I should do one about people of India. So what we're seeing are rising cases of Hindutva in anti-Muslim chants in India. So why are they getting the encouragement? Where are they getting the encouragement from? I've shared many such videos, and there's another one that just came out, and I think I shared that, where these people were chanting in front of Parliament. John, get alert of this one.
Yes.
It says, actually, I think I should play that for you, because I think that would make sense, because we did add subtitles. I don't think India was like that. If you say India always like that, then you're saying that you've always been bad, because this is not acceptable. It should not how it should be. Have a look at this. So you saw that. These people in front of the parliament chanting that if you want to live in India, you have to shout, you have to chant Jai Shri Ram, a slogan praising the Hindu god. And when Muslims will be slaughtered, mulle kaate jayenge, when Muslims will be slaughtered, that's the kind of narrative. In what world can anyone expect me to look the other way and not talk about this? Can you please tell me that, Zara?
The thing is is this video authentic? I don't know what to believe in, really.
I filmed it in my backyard, and I hired some actors.
No, I'm not joking. I'm not joking, because I know the Muslims, they've also in Kashmir made us feel sorry for them, and all the time Pakistan standing with the Kashmiri Muslims.
That's classic, terrible case of whataboutery. What does that have to do with
No,
this?
I mean, there are people that have made false videos and all. So I asked one of the Hindus, and they said that, no, you're listening to wrong ex-Muslims. You should not be listening to them. We don't kill.
Yeah, we
don't kill the Muslims
Zara,
in India.
Zara, listen to this. You ask one Hindu, and he told you very good, rosy picture, and you think that should be a fact. This is evidence that's this video has been played on every major outlet, every major news outlet. No one's actually denied the authenticity of this video. If this is bad, let me play you another one. Let's see. Let's have a look at the other one. I think that one would be, where is it? Let me play that one. Jeez, where is it? Where is it? There. Kanpur. That happened 3 days ago. Thursday it happened. And there was a Muslim, John, I know you'll be horrified because you guys live in your civilized Western world and you can't imagine these kind of things happening. But let me share that with you. And when I talk about this, I am called anti-India and anti-Hindu. Watch this. This little girl is holding and she's saying, "Don't beat my father." And he's being accused. Okay, I think I'll add that later. So anyway, so this video, you can watch the whole video on Twitter and it's everywhere. Just put Kanpur father beaten in front of his daughter or something like that. He was accused that you said Murdabad India, which means he was accused that you chanted Die India or something like that. And he's saying, no, I didn't. And a mob quickly gathered and started beating him up. And he was later arrested but released. But the point is, this is exactly what happened in Pakistan, that you have to prove. Sorry, I'm going to put you on mute because I'm getting a bit of noise. In Pakistan, you have to prove that you love the Prophet. 3 months ago, I shared a video where where a police officer was accused of blasphemy. A superintendent of police, a big police officer, and he was like, "No, I love Prophet Muhammad. I love Islam." And otherwise, he would have been, and he was still slapped around and everything. So the point is, in Pakistan, you have to prove. Anyone can be accused of blasphemy. That's it. You're gone. But in India now, it seems like anyone can accuse you of being an anti-nationalist or anti-nationalist. I think that's the term they use. And then you can be beaten up. Like this guy was beaten up because he was just accused. Hey, you said, die India, which he's saying he didn't. And then he was forced to chant Jai Shri Ram. Under what world am I expected not to highlight these issues? There's only two options about it. A, it was always happening in India, in which case you're saying India has always been a terrible place. Or B, which I say, is that it's only starting to happen now, and the only difference is Modi came to power in 2014, and that's why we're seeing this increase of hate crimes in India. In that case, It is alarming. It is what we should talk about. Please don't give me anecdotal evidence, Zara. Last word.
Pardon? Sorry, I just there's a background. My washing machine is. Okay, sorry about that. But the thing is that maybe it is some conspiracy, Pakistan's ISI or army, and not really Modi's conspiracy.
Are you see? This is the thing. I mean, what can I do? So you're saying that Imran Khan?
Yeah, why don't you look into not Imran Khan? Did I take Imran Khan's name?
Just ISI, Pakistan Army. Are you saying those people hired them to do this?
Yeah, it could be.
Okay, all right. I think we're done then. This I can't. Okay, well that
because Pakistan says that India raw R&AW, right? The spy agency of India. The foreign agents have done this to Pakistan. So maybe now, remember whatever.
You're terribly strawmanning it. That's not what Pakistan says. When there is some sort of an attack,
forgive me for my IQ and the English.
No, that's okay.
I just cannot express myself, and that's the problem.
I got your point. So this is why. Listen to me.
I'm not straw manning. But I just want. No. I have done more research than I've spoken to. Have you spoken to Indians? Have you asked them? Have you gone to India and seen what is behind? Sometimes proof is not Haris. Proof is this thing changed and tempered with. So maybe Pakistan wants India to become like this, like them.
Yeah, so Pakistan.
And this is not Modi.
Yeah, right. So Modi is a god who can't do anything.
No, I'm not saying. Please don't put words in my mouth. Please don't put what. No, I'm not saying Modi is a god.
I got to wrap it up. I got to wrap it up.
Okay.
Okay.
That's just, you are very unfair, very unjust.
Thank you.
You just give evidence like, it's very, very clear. Yes. You're a very cunning, very clever person.
Thank you very much. But you're saying that
you're welcome.
Pakistan Army is hiring this, and they're paying these actors to go and beat Muslims up.
Yes,
well
right now.
Conspiracy theories go a long way. I mean, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Because there's a number of issues that came up that I'd like to address. One is I'm at a distance from this, obviously, and to an extent, so are people in places like Dubai. And to mention another, Middle Eastern country, Qatar, where in the capital, Doha, currently the Taliban's negotiator is trying to come to some sort of peace agreement. But if you listen to what he says, it's entirely different from what the Taliban military commanders are saying on the ground in Afghanistan. He's very diplomatic and he wants to come to a solution. And they are very angry, saying they want to kill what they call their puppet government. And the similar thing is going on in India, because I'm not there. I can't actually see on the ground what's going on. But it does appear to me, from what I see on the YouTube and so on, that the Hindus have got bolder recently. They are expressing themselves more vigorously than they did hitherto. Now, how much of this is due to the availability of mobile phone technology, we shall find it difficult to find out. But it does look from here as though the Hindus feel that they've got the ground in their favor right now. They're surfing a wave right now. Finally, Haris, you said something about me living in the civility of, you didn't use that word, of the Western world. But let me tell you, yes, let me tell you that only last week we had a woman burned to death in one of our cities. And it looks like a honor killing. A horror killing, it certainly was. And it looks as though it was an honor killing. So-called honor, dishonor.
Dishonor killing, I call it. Yeah.
Yes. So it's not completely,
civilized. Yeah. Well, we are trying, people like me, people who look like me, trying our best to take you guys out of civility as well. Okay. All right. Maybe that's too much. Well, I can actually make a joke of myself. Yeah, I can. Sorry. John can't. John, don't say anything. Don't even smile. Don't even laugh at my joke. Otherwise, you'll get in trouble. Anyway, so yeah, so there are interesting comments there. They're saying yes. I mean, how can you? What was Sam Harris who said that? He said, "How can you argue with a person who doesn't value logic or doesn't value evidence? I mean, if you show them the evidence, nah. You show them the logic, nah. La 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 la. This is what I believe, and this is how it's always been. So, I mean, that's just terrible. Anyway, I'm lucky that we got to cover that. There is I want to talk about this really terrible news coming out of Afghanistan. Afghanistan is on the brink of collapse if it hasn't already fallen. The Taliban have walked into one of the Taliban spokespersons just walked into the presidential palace and sat down and said, Ashraf Ghani, time's up, give us the resignation. And he's expected to give the resignation. Some sources are saying he's already given the resignation. Some people are saying he is about to give the resignation. What I can't get over is, how is this possible that they had 300,000 people in the armed forces and none of them could stand up to Taliban? How long ago did Americans actually leave? I mean, they started leaving about 2 weeks ago or something. As soon as they started leaving, as soon as they started going back to Kabul. Well, technically, they literally left 2 days ago. And the last British and American forces left after some cleanup operations. And within 2 days, it fell. 300,000 armed forces.
Mm.
How many cars, how many weapons that they were given and trained. Now that is all going to end up in Taliban's hands. So now Taliban are going to be using American weapons.
Yes.
So I spoke about it. I made a tweet a few days ago. As you can see, 9th of August. And there were, again, this anti-Pakistan. I criticized Pakistan for all the right reasons. Well, the wrong reasons. But I criticize it fairly because I see there are so many shortcomings in Pakistan. But then some people just want to punch Pakistan for things that it's not even responsible. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on that as well, because I've watched some defense analysts and experts, international experts, and they're still saying a lot of things, blaming Pakistan for Taliban's rise. Blaming Pakistan for Taliban's rise is like us Pakistanis or Muslim countries at large blame Jews and West for our shortcomings. That's how I see it. Taliban always hung around. America never completely got rid of them. They always had this strong war ideology that America truly could not beat the way Americans beat the Nazis and the Japanese. They just couldn't do it. So Taliban just had to wait it out because America is not a colonial power. America should have taken some lessons from England, how to rule a country for over 100 years. But anyway, the world's changed. So I made that point. And so they were just crapping on Pakistan. And there was this Twitter hashtag trending from Afghanistan and India, sanction Pakistan. So I say Afghans trending sanction Pakistan, blaming them for the Taliban coming to power is like Muslims blaming the West for their failures. Pakistan can't and won't fight the Taliban to compromise its own national security, pick up arms and fight the Taliban yourself. I think that's a very fair comment because apparently it upset a lot of people. There were quite a few comments underneath and retweets and quotes and whatever. And a couple of big Twitter accounts also picked that up. Like, oh, you're telling us, you're shaming Afghan armed forces for being cowards? Yes, I am. 300,000 against 60,000, modern weaponry, attack helicopters, and they just didn't fight at all. Kept retreating, and now some people were still saying that maybe they will fight in Kabul, but they didn't even do that. They didn't even do that. So I'm sorry. I'm going to call them coward. I'm going to call them out. One of the guys, the vice president, I forgot his name. He tweeted a photo of Pakistani general who surrendered in 1971 against Indians. Which is fair enough. It is a dark chapter of Pakistan's history, and you just got to admit it. And he was like, ha, 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 these guys are cowards, something along the line. So to which Pakistani minister, one of the Pakistani minister, Fawad Chaudhry, also responded. He said, you will be the first one to run. And he actually did. 3 days ago, he fled when Kabul hadn't even fallen. So he fled. So anyway, what I said, which upset a lot of people, pick up arms and fight the Taliban yourself. A few days later, lo and behold, our president Biden said the same thing. Listen to this.
Afghan leaders have to come together. We lost death and injury, thousands of American personnel. They've got to fight for themselves, fight for their nation. The United States, I'll insist we continue to keep the commitments we made of providing close air support, making sure that their Air Force functions and is operable, resupplying their forces with food and equipment, and paying all their salaries. But they've got to want to fight. But they've got to want to fight. But they've got to want to fight. They have outnumbered the Taliban, and I'm getting daily briefings. I think there is still a possibility. You have a significant new Secretary of Defense, our equivalent of Secretary of Defense in Afghanistan, Bushmullah Khan, who's a serious fighter. I think they're beginning to realize they've got to come together politically at the top. And but we're going to continue to keep our commitment. But I do not regret my decision.
So that's what he said. And that's what I said a few days earlier. They've got to, well, I said, pick up arms and fight. And that's what Biden said. You've got to want to fight. But no, I'm sorry. These guys turned out to be cowards. I'm sorry.
A couple of days ago, the BBC screened an interview with the Minister for Defense of Afghanistan. And at that time, he was still gung-ho. He was saying, we're going to fight back. We're going to come together and resist and protect our cities and then push them back. And everybody was watching this thinking, I doubt it. I doubt it. It doesn't look likely from here. But another couple of points. The Afghanis have lived for 20 years under effectively Western rule, and it's been liberal compared to what they're used to. You know, the girls have been able to go to school. The women haven't had to wear a burqa, except in, a few very remote areas where the Taliban has still had a big influence. What's going to happen now that the Taliban are back in control? Are the women going to buckle under, to submit to the rules that the Taliban still want, despite the denial of their negotiator in Doha? The military leaders are still fundamentalist, hardline Shia Muslims. Have I got the right brand of Muslim? Yes, I think I have. Yes. So, and the other worry is, will this war spread across borders? Because, of course, there aren't any real borders. What we have is land that extends from the southern part of Afghanistan to the northern part of Pakistan.
Mm. Right. Well, that is the sad state of Afghanistan, and the sad part out of that is that I've been watching a lot of videos that's been coming out, and there are women, children. It is sheer calamity that's taking place right before our eyes. People are so afraid. They're escaping Taliban, but now there's nowhere to run. There's literally nowhere to run. Pakistan has sealed its borders, and they've said, we're not going to take them. Iran never took them. I don't know about the northern countries like Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and all those Istans. It's through sheer, I would say, just cowardice of the Afghan government and the Afghan armed soldiers. I mean, they were trained for 20 years. They have better weapons. They're far more, 3 times more in number than Taliban, and they still couldn't defend it. And again, it's always happened that way. They always blame Pakistan when it comes to that. Even in the 2010s and late 80s, and they were like, "Oh, Pakistan is." You can't beat Taliban because they have this guerrilla warfare. And America has its own problems because America can't do carpet bombing. America can't use tactical nukes because the cost of collateral damage would be immense, and that would make headlines. So America has the problems. America just can't really beat these guerrillas.
No.
So that's their problem, and Afghanistan just waited it out. They just sat down and they said, "Okay, well, we'll come out of our holes when you are gone, and we'll clean up these little the Afghan armed forces," and they've done it with such speed. I would just still think, even 3 days ago, I think Pentagon said Kabul could fall in as little as 30 days. Whoa, sorry, turned out to be 3 days.
Yes.
Anyway, all right. So I think we should move on from this. Okay, all right. I think we have a caller, and we'll take a caller. BMX, what would you like to say? Patron.
Hello.
Hi. What would you like to say?
मैं आपको बोला था कि मैं is it Hindi, English?
It's English, mate. It's English. Haven't you been listening?
Okay, just making sure. So I'm a Kashmiri, so I hear about people from Kashmir express about how India is being
Connection trouble?
No, I think it's just language trouble. Hello? BMX? Okay, I think you can maybe come. Okay, we're going to have to take you some of the time. Okay, let's take Bilal. Bilal, what would you like to say?
Hey, this is me again, BMX.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was telling you about
right. Yes.
me being a Kashmiri. So it's interesting how I see it both sides. How this the religious fervor and the religious zeal, how this clouds the mind of people. My Kashmiri friends and everything. When Kashmir was under siege last year, 2 years ago, when India removed the Article 370, and Hindus, the Bhattas, the guys that they rooted out of Kashmir in the Josh of Nizam-e-Mustafa, those guys were like, you're getting a taste of your own medicine, and they didn't care. And at that time, the completely different attitude. We never place ourselves in the shoes of other people. How they must have felt, when in 1990, 250 Hindus, Bhattas, were gunned down in 6 months by these militants.
That was powered by definitely sponsored by Pakistan. There's no doubt about that.
Exactly. So how were the Hindus not supposed to be terrified? How 250 people in a small population, and every day there is chanting of Nizam-e-Mustafa all over. There are big jalous and everything. So they got terrified and ran away. How unfortunate is this? An entire community has to leave there, where they have lived for thousands and thousands of years. What can be worse? And they had to leave overnight, and it doesn't register to them that is a huge calamity that happened. That is not something they give that a passing reference. They were just terrified. It wasn't going to be, nothing was going to happen. It was Jagmohan's policy. Jagmohan terrified them. And then when they see one video of a Muslim guy being slapped in Kanpur, they say, "Oh, genocide is around the corner in India." Oh, genocide.
No one is saying that. No, no one, no one,
Exactly.
no one is saying that. And first of all, no, first of all, let me.
Exactly. Let me
No, no,
finish.
hang
Let me
on, hang
finish.
on. I gave you some point. So no one is actually saying that. What you gave a historical reference. This is the problem where people from either side, they pick up certain atrocities of the past, and then they go fast forward it, and then they say that is the reason why we're doing it. The moment you say it, we understand why there is this tension between Hindus and Muslims. We understand that. We understand what the other side is chanting. The other side chanting for Sharia law in secular India, and then the Hindus in India think the secularism is not going to save us, so therefore we have to pick up arms, and that's the whole sentiment, right? So that's the crux of the argument. That both sides are trying to. Muslims historically have always been the case, trying to impose Sharia on the rest of the world and dream of conquering land, and they take India for granted. They want to conquer it, and as a result, now they're saying secularism isn't working, which is false. It's not like secularism isn't working. In 70 years, India has not fallen to any Sharia. India has not. There's some political things that they can go back and forth. They can go back and forth, but as a result, now what they're doing with the Hindutva is just turning into a monster. And that's not just one video. There are tens of such videos, and these videos will become far more frequent. I've been saying that for quite some time, that this will become far more frequent. So now that has to be pointed out, because what these Hindutva people are saying, they're saying exactly what Muhammad Ali Jinnah said. Hang on. They're saying exactly what Muhammad Ali Jinnah said. Two-nation theory. So if you ask for a Hindu state, Hindu Rashtra, as they like to call, you're saying, well, we're Hindus, we're separate, Muslims are separate. There are how many? 200 million Muslims living in India, according to some estimates. Wow, you're going to carve another Pakistan. Secularism was, and will be the only way for India to move forward. Any other little problems that you have, you need to solve them politically, not random freaking underbucks taking law into their own hands and mobbing and lynching people. Do you want to add something?
This just shows how divisive religions are, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, they keep a grievance against each other for thousands of years. You talked about this being National Day for India and yesterday being National Day for Pakistan. What we really need is Reset Day, where everybody says, let's forget all our grievances in the past, look at each other as fresh human beings today, and move forward together.
Yeah, right. Okay, sorry, last word, Bilal.
Hey, so what I was trying to say is it's an opportunity to think, how the other people also feel when they are in that situation.
Yeah.
See how bad it feels when you see like how 20 lynchings in 1 year make you feel like, and which is absolutely right. You are terrified. So take this opportunity to think how the Bhattas also might be feeling at that time when 250 were gunned down in 6 months. So take it as an opportunity to.
I agree with you.
Have some empathy for the.
I think what is an opportunity. That's a very good point.
Don't dismiss that as they were just. They took it too seriously. Jagmohan did some policy, and that's why they ran away. People do get terrified when these incidents happen.
I think it's a very good point to take away from this, is that this is a good time for people to realize, Muslims to realize, that this is how religious extremism looks. But the problem with Islam is they're always led to believe that Islam is the perfect form of government and religion. So therefore, everyone else will be fine under our thumb. That's what they believe. So they need to be told the importance of secularism. It's a funny saying that the Jamaat-e-Islami in India says that we will fight till the last drop of blood in us to keep secularism in India. Same people in Pakistan say we will fight till the last drop of blood to keep secularism away from Pakistan.
Yes. I have one final point. So what I told my friends is, in a nutshell, Hindutva is poisoning India. Pakistan has poisoned Kashmir with Nizam-e-Mustafa.
Yes, that's a very good point. I agree with you. And I think sooner Pakistan can drop it and realize they can't do anything, they can't win anything, the better it is for the region. Thank you very much for coming and sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
What grieves me here is that it's not a real difference calling yourself some religious label because there's no evidence for any God. So drop it, you know. You've got real grievances to worry about. You know, there's inequality. Some people have all the resources, others don't. Fine, argue about those. But until you've proved that there is a God, don't bother to argue in favor of one or the other.
Only if it was ever that simple. But anyway, okay,
Yeah.
let's move on to our next news story. Right, so speaking of... okay, well, sorry. I was slapped. Sorry, I didn't know that. MJ, maybe you can talk on the Urdu channel. Okay, so speaking of problems in Pakistan, let's talk about some of the comments that our Prime Minister has made many times when he talks about how the concept of parda, how Islam ensures and how women are respected in Muslim countries far more than they are in Western countries. He recently said that again in an interview, I think it was with PBS. Yeah, interview in PBS NewsHour. He said it numerous times before that women should cover up, that would lower the temptation, etc., etc. And I spoke about it. I think he's become a butt of jokes for everyone else, including the world. I think he even if they're talking to him about Afghanistan, they want to get him on this because it's so embarrassing. And he did backtrack a little bit, but still. It was he basically said, yeah, women are responsible, but no, they're not responsible. So he kind of said that because that's exactly what it means when you point out the causes of rape, then instantly you have blamed the victim. Have a look at this guy. I think I shared that one. Man arrested for raping food delivery boy in Islamabad. So even Uber Eats people are not really safe. But I wanted to share something more disgusting that came out last week. And a father arrested for raping his daughter. It says real daughter because these people couldn't even fathom that real daughter. Excuse me? That doesn't happen in our countries. Look at that guy in there. He looks like any ordinary Mohammed Bashir that you might see down the road. And he was arrested by the in charge Cell City Division, Anam Rahmat. So she was a female police officer who went along with her team and arrested this guy, Muhammad Aslam, who had sexually assaulted his real daughter. And I think I've shared this one, that this is not some one-off incident in a sexually suppressive, frustrated society. This is going to happen all the time. And I think I shared this video last time. I'm really sorry I didn't get a chance to put some subtitles on it. I'll just play it again, those who can understand, and I'll tell you what basically she said.
पाकिस्तान में, और ये सबसे बदशक्ल बात है, ग्रुप है हमारा एनजीओ होता था वॉर अगेंस्ट रेप WAR, उन्होंने बताई स्टैटिस्टिक्स, और ये इशू जब टैकल करेंगे पाकिस्तान में, इससे आपकी एक रेवोल्यूशन भी आएगी, एवोल्यूशन भी आएगी, रेजिस्टेंस भी आएगी. गायनेकोलॉजिस्ट से पूछा जाता है, बच्चियों से पूछा जाता है कि रेप किसने किया. 82% परपेट्रेटर्स वालिद, चाचा, ताया, दादा, नाना, मामू, फूफा उसके बाद आते हैं ये लोग.
So she basically said 82% of the rape victims, when they were interviewed by a gynecologist, turned out to be their fathers, brothers, uncles, grandparents, and then Pupa, which is what your auntie's husband from father's side. 82%. So this, and none of them were reported. So this is not something that you would see as a random incident. This is bound to happen in a sexually frustrated society. UNICEF, now I was told this, although it was never made public, but people who did conduct the study, and the study was so horrible that Pakistan forced them that they would not release the study, because if they did, they would never be allowed to operate in Pakistan ever again. According to them, they interviewed a sample of, 1,000 kids or something. 68 or 69% of boys were molested by the clerics in the madrasas. And I'm not surprised one bit at it, although unfortunately, as I said, it was never released, but some been told that a person who was involved in that study. So I'm not surprised by that at all. One of Pakistan's largest clerics has said that there would hardly be a single madrasa where these kind of things don't happen. Now, what's happening to those? I mean, are you going to put boys in Wales as well? Are you going to put Uber Eats delivery boys in burqas as well? Or are you going to put your daughters and sisters on burqas as well? No. We have had plenty of incidents. I think just yesterday the news story came out. Okay, let me actually share that with you. What they did was they pulled out a grave of a dead body of a grave, and then they raped the dead body of a female. That's just how. So you're gonna put. Well, I think dead bodies are covered in sort of like a burqa. It's called kafan. Here's the news story. They took out a girl out of a grave in Tata. The dead body of a girl was only 14 years old. So what are you going to do? This concept of parda that you talk about, more you repress people sexually, worse these things are going to get. You call about, like Imran Khan said, if you look at the rape statistics in Western countries and compare them with Pakistan, they're far lower than Western countries, blah, blah, blah. And he himself said in one hand that whatever rape cases are, whatever it's quoted, it's 4 times higher because people in Pakistan don't report them. So there was this one little
there's no point reporting them, is there, if you've got to get 2 or 3 other people to witness for you, because your vote doesn't count as much as a man's.
Well, Pakistan doesn't have that in their jurisprudence. A woman's testimony is considered equal to a man's, but it's still so shameful that they would never come out. Have a look at this one. So in Lahore's High Court, police presented a report in which, in the current year alone, up until, let's say, 1st of August, so 8 months, in 8 months, or 7 months, sorry, 34,000 cases of rape were reported. 34,000. So that means if you average it out for a whole year, that turns out to be 60,000. 60,000 a year in Punjab alone, Pakistan's largest province. Now, according to Imran Khan, there are 4 times more than what it is reported. So what is this? 240,000, 250,000 cases of rape. And how many of them would be by fathers and brothers? And it makes sense because everyone is sexually frustrated in that country. And these guys, they have no bars and clubs and discos to go and mingle with other women. And so they're going to let out their horniness on someone who's closest to them. So Imran Khan quoting rape figures in the West. Obviously terrible because, yes, it happens in Western countries as well, but at least it's not shamed upon and women are supported. I've quoted this example so many times. Look up Australian of the Year, this current Australian of the Year, and listen to her story. I've said it a few times, so I'm not going to repeat it again. But I don't think so. That 82% of rape victims would have been raped by the fathers and brothers and uncles and grandparents in any country, any Western country. I don't think so. That would be the case anywhere. And also marital rape is not even considered in Pakistan. It's not even considered rape. So I think these guys have to take a look. The only solution is not raising the wall between men and women, but actually it's actually demolishing that wall. Yes. And opening up the society is the only solution.
Yes.
Otherwise, you'll keep getting in one of the most pious countries, you'll keep getting your daughters and sisters raped by their fathers and brothers.
Yes. Women are people too. That's the message that you've got to get across. And on the subject of sexual frustration, it's rare in this country, but only last week we had an incident in which an incel, these are people who call themselves involuntarily celibate because they can't make a relationship with a member of the opposite sex. And there's a group of them on the internet, and they complain to each other and make threats against, in this case, women, because they are frustrated men. And we had this terrible event in Plymouth, couple of days ago when one of these incels who had licensed a shotgun, unbelievably, he had permission to own a shotgun. We don't have any other guns in this country. You've got to have a reason to have a gun. And I suppose he said he was going to shoot rabbits or something. And that's being investigated because it's thought that he shouldn't have been given permission because he was a nutter, basically. And he went out and he shot his mother and I think 5 other people randomly in the street. One was a 3-year-old girl. So he just went on a rampage. And that's the first shooting rampage in this country for 10 years.
This is something that needs to be looked upon. And I was thinking that this is the worst form of terrorism that is taking place in Western countries. It's happened in Canada, I believe, and now it's happened in UK. Only a matter of time. If it already hasn't happened in America, it will happen there again. These incel, these sexually frustrated idiots who can't charm a woman, think that they owe them sex. So they get angry and frustrated to a point that they have now started coming out and shooting women. And people, these 5 people, I don't know, they've been identified in a sense that if they were all women or not. I wouldn't be surprised.
No, they were not. There was a man and his 3-year-old daughter just walking down the street innocently. They got blasted.
So Florence Keane, who researches incels at the International Center for Study of Radicalization at King's College London, says that one of the biggest forums has 13,000 active members and around 200,000 threads. What the hell are these sexually frustrated nutbags talking about? And I spoke about incels, I think about a year ago, and I was attacked by incels. I was saying these guys are sexually frustrated idiots. I'm sorry, it is what it is. You can't charm a girl. Sorry, work on your hairstyle, maybe, work on your appearance, or maybe read some pickup lines. No, they never work. Like go to a bar and drop a glass and say, "Oh, I just broke some ice." Did you? Hang on, I've got another corny line. Oh, have you been sitting on a pile of sugar? Why? Because your booty is sweet as. Are you from Tennessee? Why? Because you're the only 10 I see. So all these pickup lines that never work. Trust me, I've tried. Okay.
They're as bad as these.
Bad jokes. Right. Okay. Okay. Well, anyway, sorry, I went the other way, but this is getting out of control, and I think I'm just, I spoke about this in my Urdu stream the other day, that Pakistani or these Muslim clowns haven't actually worked out what incel means, because then they would say, see, in the West, that's what they're doing, because the matter of coupling is left up to the young people, and that not everyone gets to get one. But in our beautiful culture and society, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us the parents should sit down and arrange the marriage. So every loser ends up getting a girl. So that's why, wallah, our system is better, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what they would say. But they haven't worked it out yet. So I think now they probably will, because I spoke about it in Urdu a couple of days ago. Chava guy is saying, I think West should have art of seduction as part of school course, not just sex education. That is the only solution. Well, I don't think so, because there will always be failures. There will always be people who can't get anyone. I think, yes, that part should be taught, that how women's psychology works, which is still a mystery, by the way. You never know what works. So the art of seduction, what should be taught to boys is that what is definitely a no-no. Expecting women that owe you something is definitely a no-no. Respecting people's space, respecting no means no. I'm gonna get in trouble if I go into that. Okay, so I'm not gonna go into that. All right. No definitely means no. That part is true. But then in the natural course of, I think I should, because otherwise people will be like, what is he saying? No definitely means no. But in certain circumstances, this is a game of seduction, and am I opening a can of worms for me? So no, I'm not a date artist or telling you how to date, so I'm not going to go into that because I'll get in trouble with feminists. All right. Okay, we'll take one patron, Sultan Salatin. What would you like to say?
I just wanted to add a quick question to your previous discussion about Taliban's and Afghan soldiers not fighting
Yeah, sure.
back. Could that
Sure.
be a psychological warfare because they know that's the Islamic Sharia that the Talibans are following, and they are, there's an internal war going on in those soldiers' mind whether we should fight Islam because that's basically what it represents. And on the other hand, they have this indoctrination from the West, which they internally, I think, are still in conflict with, and they don't buy it as such. Do you think that could be the reason?
Well, I think all of these things could be the reason, because how are you going to convince? And again, when you're afraid, when you're scared, you're likely to take any rationale that would get you to the other side. So if you're the Afghan soldier, their morale is not even at the ground level; it's actually gone under the ground, below surface. They're so scared, and Taliban have won the propaganda war by showing the videos of what they would do once they capture them. They literally slaughter them like goats and sheep. So that way, when you're looking at it, you're like, okay, maybe I should join the other side. And now you can think of any reason. Oh, maybe we are fighting against Islam, or we shouldn't fight against Islam. Well, why were they not thinking that when they were enjoying the good salary that was given to them? So there could be plenty of other reasons, but I think the main reason is fear and their morale being very low. And nothing was done, and Afghan government was so corrupt. They was squandering funds just like any other third world country. Their dollars were coming in, and they were just building palaces. There's one video that literally broke my heart. That I think it was Kandahar or something, when these Taliban filmed it, and they just walked through this fancy palace. These chairs, beautiful couches and chairs made of, I don't know, they had gold engraving or whatever. And these Taliban in the shalwar kameez and the turbans, they're just sitting on it as conquerors. That just shows that how disconnected this Afghan government was to the reality. The moment Americans left, they couldn't even hold out for a week. And I was speaking with Ghalib. Ghalib was saying, no, I think Kabul would still be very difficult to conquer. No. They just fell within 3 days. Pentagon said it will take 30 days. But they took it within 3 or 4 days. That's how bad it is. So all of the reasons that you said are there. But my point is, these Afghan soldiers are also Muslims. Why could they not be trained in that sense that, okay, this is your country, this is your homeland, this is what true Islam is, blah blah blah, like how we train Pakistan army, right? They do tell Pakistani foot soldiers about the importance of jihad and martyrdom and dying for your country, and they show great valor and bravery, the foot soldiers. But why could they not do that with these guys? I just don't get it.
I can see where our guest is coming from here, because if you're religious, then to an extent, the more fundamental end of your religion are the more virtuous. They are the most devout. They believe your doctrine to the greatest extent. So the moderates are less virtuous. They're less likely to get the rewards of the afterlife, etc., etc. And to that extent, it's a sort of a civil war. Within the one religion, they're fighting each other. So it looks bad. It can look bad to the moderates that they are fighting the people who really they should be admiring because they are the most devout. It's a conflict, a mental conflict.
I think so too. And do you think, looking back, that it was a mistake to invade Afghanistan or to go there?
Yes. Personally, I do, because for a start, the reason for going into Afghanistan was not justified. It was in in response to the 9/11, the American Twin Towers atrocity. And I don't think that there was evidence to suggest that Afghanistanis were the actual culprits for that. So to that extent, it was a mistake. Furthermore, Afghanistan has been invaded regularly, and all the invaders failed. The Russians failed, the British failed, the Americans and NATO failed. It's very difficult to fight in that country because there's so many places to hide.
Well, I don't think so. That was a mistake. I think you poke a bear, the bear is likely to respond. Otherwise, it's no longer a bear. See, people are saying that, oh, this is United States' defeat. Not really. Their primary objective was get rid of bin Laden and Taliban, Mullah Omar, and all those guys who were harboring him, protecting him. That was their primary objective. They went in, they just turned the whole country upside down. And kind of like a mad bull. And a lot of innocent people obviously died as well, and they suffered, and they're going to suffer again now as well. And they were already suffering at the hands of Taliban. So America didn't care about that, but they just wanted to set the record straight that we are the superpower. How dare you bring two of our buildings, iconic buildings, down, and 3,000 people along with it. That was the primary objective. Okay, now we've done it. Bin Laden was killed in 2011. Mullah Omar was supposedly killed in 2012 or 13. So. And I think that's what Obama said after that. The initial war has been won, and now we're going to start withdrawing. And that was the beginning of the end of American occupation of Afghanistan. And Taliban knew that. All they had to do was sit it out. And that's what they did. Now this is the beauty of American democracy, changing administration, new way of thinking coming in. Okay, now we've actually ruined this. What do? We got to bring them back to, we're going to have some sort of a civilization set up here, some sort of a democracy set up there. It's kind of like pulling up, okay, bad analogy, I wouldn't use that, but it's just telling these people, okay, now you can be a part of the 21st century modern global world. But what Afghanistan, Taliban, not Afghanistan, what Taliban have shown, they're incapable of that. So America, although purely from ethical standpoint, should have stayed there longer. I remember when they were saying, oh, America should leave Iraq, America should leave Afghanistan. But we knew the moment they leave, it will be taken over by them. And Iraq is somewhat a bit more successful, despite ISIS and all that. But Afghanistan was a bit more of a problem. Yeah, true. Iraq is still, but it's not as bad as Afghanistan, right? But with Afghanistan, that was always bound to happen. And they, at the end of the day, they said, we've spent over $1 trillion. We're not going to stay here forever. And they're just shrugging off the shoulders and they're going back. America hasn't lost. America has lost in bringing Afghanistan to a civilized world. That's what America has lost. And as far as the primary objective is concerned, they got it. They fucked them.
I think I disagree to a certain extent. One, if there's a terrorist activity in any country, is it fair to, invade the whole country if it's a group of people? One.
How do you get the group of people? So how do you get the group of people? It was a government. Taliban was the government of Afghanistan. It's not a group of people.
But still, there are lives of ordinary people also involved.
Yeah, but what do you do with that? Yeah, but you can't leave Osama bin Laden and run amok. Hey, I just got your 2 buildings down. What are you meant to do?
Secondly, the thing is that unless a country is, the people are willing to fight for themselves, and there's a kind of a revolution, or people are fighting back, no matter what you do,
exactly,
how much you train them, how much you give them weapons and everything, they won't fight back.
Yeah, true. That part is true. So that actually is evidence that modern training, weaponry is not going to bring people to civility if they're not ready for it themselves. But as I said, that wasn't the primary goal. It wasn't America's primary goal to bring liberty to Afghanistan. That wasn't their primary goal. The primary goal was to screw those who brought 2 buildings down and killed 3,000 people. But anyway, that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I got a couple of super chats I want to go through. So why is Islam demonized so badly? Factually speaking, Nazis and communists slaughtered in millions compared to mere thousands victimized by Islamic terror. Isn't it pure current geopolitics at play? Well, first of all, comparing them with Nazis and communists is not right, because Nazis and communists had the industrialized weaponry, and that's why the results were devastating. Islam, if your numbers are, I don't know, highly inflated throughout its history, and then you could throw Christianity in that as well. They've killed in millions as well. I'll give it to you that over much longer period of time. But if you give modern weaponry or Nazi kind of weaponry, artillery, air force to Taliban or ISIS, what do you think would happen? So, yeah.
Well, I think you're right. It's not a fair comparison, but for different reasons. Because I think that National Socialism, Nazism, and communism are political ideologies, and they're real. You know, people can have different opinions about how they should be governed. They can have different policies. This is what politics is about. You know, every time you argue over who's going to do the washing up tonight, you're doing politics. And that's different from Islam, because Islam is a religion, and religions are based on the idea that somebody up there at the top of their hierarchy is the boss. And there's no evidence for that person, unlike political ideologies. There's, you know, reasons to think of different ways to rule, but there's no justification for doing what he says until there's evidence for him.
Right. The other question is, USA's military power is controlled by internal democracy. If left unfettered, US military can nuke Taliban and take control of Afghanistan over a weekend. It's not military loss, but a liberal victory. I actually agree with that. What do you think?
It's no victory at all.
No, but isn't that a good argument to make, that that if America was operating even the standards of World War II, they could have just carpet bombed everyone. They would have just destroyed everyone, along with women and children, as we saw in the Second World War. But now the standards of war have changed so much that the United States would be more frightened of one collateral murder video that Julian Assange leaked. And look how much trouble it caused, that America is still trying to recover from it. One incident in Abu Ghraib prison. And that is the evidence of our morality moving forward. And I think morality moving forward doesn't work if there are parts of the world where they have a totally different moral code. Taliban capture a US soldier, we know what they would do to them. Or ISIS would capture a US soldier, what they would do to them. But when US captures Taliban or ISIS, we know that they'll be just put in prison in an orange jumpsuit, and yeah, maybe the worst they would get is, you know, listening to, I don't know, Tupac music in the loud, which is, again, I'm not condoning that. It's not a laughing matter. It's still torture, it's torture, but I think it's been outlawed as well in Obama's government. So there is clearly a distinction between how two sides are operating. But this is why it gets interesting, that when China comes into the bigger picture of going to other countries militarily, what rules of engagement will they follow? I think they would be bombing them. They would be using, who knows? I don't know. Might even use tactical nukes. Who knows?
You're into speculation now, Harris. But I disagree. I think we should be moving away from mighty warlords who rule like a world's policeman. Winning a bomb site is not a win. I think we should be winning hearts and minds. And that means educating people in all sorts of things, like, for example, the equality between the sexes. That would be a good start.
Yeah, but how are you going to do that with Taliban? We sound like Gandhi and Buddha to these people. Just try to do that. We'll be slaughtered like that.
Yes, I am an idealist. I accept that.
So that part is fine. I'm just simply putting it out there that United States, if you want to blame United States that they failed to bomb Afghanistan into civility, then it's because they were following totally different moral code. Then they're not, even if they were following Second World War moral code, we might have had some sort of a better victory in Afghanistan. But anyway, that's just
the Second World War wasn't as cuddly as you make it.
No, it wasn't. No, of course it wasn't. Again, further away we can go from there. My point is, just imagine Taliban having that kind of force. Then at some point there would be forced to use nukes. Again, I'm not using the word.
In World War II, several cities were destroyed by a firestorm every bit as big as a nuclear bomb could cause.
Yeah, well, this carpet bombing of Dresden and Berlin, and that just we know all of that. Okay, Chava guys, and given equal power, Nazis would eliminate all non-white people. No, non-white people, but ISIS would leave people who convert irrespective of race. So who are better? No, that's a tricky one. That's a good one, right? So at least you under ISIS, John, here's a problem. Here's a conundrum. You under ISIS, if you say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, you'd be allowed to live. But me as a brown guy under Nazis, I'd be like, whatever he wants me to say. I'd be like, sorry, mate. There you go. There's the gas chamber. So who would you say is better?
Well, from my point of view, of course, it's an obvious answer, but I don't think we should be making these value judgments.
I think it's just
wrong.
I think it's just a joke. I think it is a joke one. But yeah, they're both as bad. I mean, some people would say that, they're both as bad. And if Nazis kill me for being brown, then so be it. Well, option is removed anyway. Choice is removed anyway, so it doesn't matter. Maybe it'll be like my sour grapes at the end. Like, oh, you're going to kill me anyway, so F you. Anyway, all right.
There's no benefit to judging a person by their outside. It's ridiculous.
Well, yeah,
it's what's inside that matters.
Right, the smoke-filled lungs and the clogged arteries in the modern world that we have. All right, so I'm just going to do one more news story, and then we're going to take another patron. We spoke about Sorry, just give me a sec. Let me get this out of the way. The news story that I've already covered. We spoke about Hindu fanaticism in India. This is rising, and the woman who came had a Muslim Pakistani name, but for some reason was an awfully dogmatic fan of Modi for some instance. And I showed her videos, which, according to her, could be fake videos. So let me show you the video. And there is rising Hindutva in India that is alarming. So that's this one video that's from a few days ago, where some Hindu nationalists, Hindutva, Hindu bigots, Hindutva, sorry, not Hindu bigots, Hindutva, which is the political ideological wing of in India of Hindus. The sole goal is to create Hindu Rashtra, Hindu Republic. It's a misnomer, but that's how it is. Kind of like how Muslims say we want to create the Islamic Republic. So it's exactly like how Democratic Republic of North Korea.
they love a cuddly word in their name, don't they?
Don't they? So they this is rising and at an alarming rate. These videos are becoming more and more frequent, and a lot of pundits, a lot of experts say this is because of the downfall of the liberal voices in India. There's another video just came out a couple of days ago from Kanpur. Have a look, where this one guy was being beaten up by a mob, and and his daughter was saying, "Please don't beat up my father." He was accused that he said die India or something, which he was constantly denying. But there's no way out of a mob justice. So they forced him to chant Jai Shri Ram, which is a Hindu slogan. He's a Muslim, obviously, and that's why he had to prove his innocence, that he loves India. Kind of like in Pakistan, how you have to prove that you are a Muslim, you are not a blasphemer, otherwise anyone can go in prison or get beaten up. And now in India, you have to chant Jai Shri Ram, or you have to prove your loyalty to Mother India. So that's just one side of it. So we covered that earlier. And there's this woman was saying, well, is this video legitimate? Because Hindus are not like that. Of course, not all Hindus are like that, but these kind of Hindutva people are rising in number. Have a look at this one. So I spoke about this. Hindu fanaticism is rising in India with only one goal: genocide of Muslims. Again, not all Hindus, this Hindutva, this Hindu fanaticism. As shown in translation on one of the banners, I've been saying for 4 years that this Hindu nationalism is rising and will end up in a genocide. So have a look at the manifesto. One of the banners, what did it say? It said, Hindu groups who always protest against Muslims are just plain weak and cowards. That is incitement. They're saying they always knock on the doors of law and constitution, meaning there's decent Hindus who say, well, this is a law and order issue. Let's just talk about it, civil people. Muslims keep doing love jihad. Another favorite word these guys use. They claim that Muslims are marrying Hindu girls so they can convert them to Islam and make Muslim babies and eventually at the end take over entire India. In the name of Allah, killing cows. Oh yes, because cows are your god, so the rest of the world is also meant to obey and respect it and not eat cow. And Hindus just keep protesting. You little Hindus are just protesting. You guys are nothing. So meaning they're saying that you need to get up. So, oh, Hindus, when and where will you get your revenge? Right? Clear incitement. It says, keep relying on law and constitution. How will you massacre these Muslims? Oh, they are asking to massacre. This is one of the banners from the same video that I just showed you. Openly inciting. They're saying, where is your will to war? Holy war. Take constitution. So meaning, take inspiration from them and start a war against, because a holy war is greater than law and constitution. And saying, don't protest, become a rebel, don't shout, attack them. That's the kind of narrative that is being peddled, and it is getting more and more popular. Look at the number of people there. And that was done in front of the Indian Parliament in New Delhi. So that is the Hindu fanaticism that is rising, and that is being powered by YouTubers. Look at this guy. I shared that here. The guy here on the left and the guy on the right is Sanjay Dixit. His channel has something like 350,000 subscribers. And on his channel, he had this guest who said that I endorse mob lynching of Muslims. He said that. Go to my Twitter and you can watch it. August 9, I uploaded it. Underneath, another YouTuber, he's got, I think, 150,000 subscribers, called Neeraj Atri. Someone sends him a super chat of 500 rupees, which is something like, I don't know, maybe like $10 or maybe $20, something like that. And he says that, oh, if I get a hold of one of these YouTubers in India, his name is Science Journey, because he speaks again, he exposes Hinduism, right or wrong, whatever, he does that from hiding. Yes, India is not as popular, as free as you might think. Like, I'm an ex-Muslim and I speak against Islam, and I show my face because I live in free Western world. That's why I show my face. But these guys who criticize Hinduism can't show their faces. So anyway, so this super chat is given to him, and he says that subtitles are available. You can go to my Twitter and you can watch the whole video yourself. It's only a minute long. And one of the super chat senders says, if I get a hold of this guy, Science Journey or Ghalib Kamal, I will cut them up into pieces. And this YouTuber with 150,000 subscribers just giggles at it. So that is the kind of narrative, violent rhetoric is being put forward. And we are seeing that. Let me make a prediction again. I've been saying that for the last 4 years, that Hindu fanaticism is rising in India. And we are sitting on a ticking time bomb. And there's going to be a massive, massive atrocity committed against innocent Muslim population of India. Last Pew survey of India showed Muslims of India are far more liberal. They're far more secular minded than comparatively to their cousins in Pakistan. So this love jihad narrative that they love to peddle, for example, this one, have a look at this one. It says, outfit UP, which is the size of Pakistan, outfit conducts drive to ensure no Muslim applies mehndi to Hindu women on tea. So, so they went to shop and they said, don't allow Muslim shopkeepers to apply mehndi, henna, on the hands. You might have seen this beautiful drawing of henna on Hindu girls' hands. So they were going shop to shop. Now, there's still decent people in India. So we have checked several shops and appealed to the owners to not employ Muslim youth as they indulge in love jihad. So here's the theory. If you have a Muslim guy working in your shop and a Hindu girl comes, he might seduce her and marry her. So therefore, don't employ Muslim men. That's the logic. Moreover, what does it say? It says, another shopkeeper said, how can we employ people on the basis of their religion? Besides, the customers that come to us have never asked about the faith of our staff.
People with ADHD say.
So this is how this narrative is being peddled in India. And it's only a matter of time when we're going to hear some terrible news of riots and, I would say, probably near genocide of Muslims. What do you have to say, John? How do you see all these things that I just reported?
Well, there's a mess, if you ask me. The thing is that I just want to comment on this idea that you can coerce or threaten or torture people into saying what you would like them to say. And it's supposed to mean something? No. They're just going to say what stops the pain, you know? And then there's another concept of revenge. Well, revenge is a word that's got re in front of it, and all it will do is stimulate revenge. You're going into a circular situation there. Your revenge is today, my revenge is tomorrow, then you want your revenge the day after. This is not going to stop. I don't see any end to it. But I loved the guy who you put up there who's called Dick Shit. Does he know what that name sounds like?
Wow. So you're talking about this guy on the right, Sanjay Dixit. Yes. Yeah, well,
yes.
I think it's pronounced differently. I don't have a tongue for it. It's supposedly it's spelled the same way, Dixit. Apparently, he has the highest IQ in the world. So, don't mess with him. Be very careful. Was it Einstein who said, or Stephen Hawking who said, is that people who brag about IQ are a bunch of idiots or something like that. I have put my challenge forward to him. I said, let's just sit down. I don't know what my IQ is. I might be dumb as a hammer. But I said, well, let's just do an IQ test. Sit together live. But he's yet to respond.
Well, good luck to him. But the thing is, what he should know is how his name sounds in the language that's closest to worldish. You know, he's got to accept that English is very widely spoken. And I mean, for example, is it Renault? Yeah, I think it's Renault who put out a sport. No, it's Toyota. Put out a sports car in France that they called the name of it is the MR2. Unfortunately, in France, that's pronounced MR2, which sounds very like merde, which is the French for shit. And they didn't sell many, and then they withdrew that model. So this is what he's up against.
Right. Adam X is saying hammers are not dumb, rocks are. That's true. Dumb as a rock. But you know what they say? There's another saying, it's going, not the sharpest tool in the shed. So, maybe I was confusing the two. But anyway, hammers are just as dumb as rock if you speak about empirically. Okay, so there was, I think we've covered that. Let's take another patron. John, how you doing? What would you like to say?
Hello again.
Well, I am sleepy. It's 5:45 here.
Yeah, well, you woke up early again. I'm waking you up early, so that's good. I'm good for your health.
Yeah, well, interesting discussion. I see you're talking about Afghanistan again.
Yeah, well,
there will never be peace there, I don't think. The Taliban will screw it up, and Russia is just biting at the bullet to get back in there. No one ever seems to learn.
Yeah, but that's just how it is, unfortunately. And I think we've spoken enough about it. But I think I should have added you in that conversation. But how do you see the fact that I know last week you said that Taliban are nothing special as fighters, and it says a lot because United States inflicted more casualties in Iraq than in Afghanistan, and they just took them to the cleaners. But as soon as they left, and that says a lot that they were waiting for Americans to leave. As soon as they left, now they're just running amok in the country. So Taliban are not special. But what that means is that government that America and the Western world put so much money in investing, and the army that they invested so much in turned out to be worse than Taliban then.
Yeah, they're just, it was a waste of time and money. The idea was to get them on their feet, not to colonize the country, get them on their feet, an effective government, military, police, bring them into the 21st century, and then leave. Unfortunately, that never happened. And other countries like China, you mentioned, if they decide to go into Afghanistan, it'll be to colonize it, to strip it of its natural resources, and take everything they can. So
all the while, no respect for human rights.
Yeah, be careful who you demonize. That's what my advice to the Afghans would be, because it could be a lot worse.
There's another misconception about Afghanistan is that Afghan people support Taliban. I don't think so. If that was the case, why are so many thousands? They've shown tens of thousands of Afghans fleeing from places where Taliban are going in, and now they run out of places. If that was the case, why are they fleeing? So Afghan people, who doesn't like a bit of freedom? Not a lot, but just a bit, that we can show our face. Maybe we don't have to cover up a face with those dots in there, with those holes in the burqa, but just so we can show just a face. We'll cover the rest of the body. Who doesn't like that much of freedom? Of course people do. And Taliban will ensure that you don't even get that much of respect and freedom. Yeah. So I don't think most people are supportive of Taliban. And if they're only supportive of Taliban, that's only out of fear. It's like, well, if they're coming, may as well join them.
Yeah, the people who are fleeing is anyone connected to the government, because they're going to be killed. And anyone with money wants to get out of there. So there's a certain group of people that's always going to flee.
That's correct. John, last word.
In fact, we're helping some of them, haven't we? Aren't we? Because they were interpreters for the US and UK forces, and their lives are in peril at the moment. So we are actually treating them as our nationals and bringing them home.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Okay, John, do you have anything else to add on this?
I think we've done that topic, haven't we? But I'd like to mention, because we've sort of skated around the idea of ridicule, haven't we? And whether it's acceptable or not. And it reminds me of a video I watched during the week in which this Christian evangelical YouTuber took against Ricky Gervais, who said, Ricky Gervais, he showed a little clip of him, and he said, he said the best trick of religion was not convincing people that there was a God that was all powerful. It was convincing everyone else that you couldn't ridicule the idea. Because, ridicule is a very powerful weapon for something that is ridiculous. And so this guy, who was trying to prove that Ricky Gervais was a bad boy, said, my challenge to atheists is this: when you're dealing with the topic of God's existence, Jesus' resurrection, the evidence for the Bible, and that sort of thing, no sarcasm, no self-righteous posturing is allowed. So in other words, he's agreeing. He's giving more ammunition to Ricky Gervais. These people are trying to deny ridicule.
Even the lowest form of ridicule, which is sarcasm.
Yes.
Sarcasm is far more politer than the actual outright mockery and caricaturing and all of that. Well, that's just stupid, I think. And I'm going to say something about Ricky Gervais. I haven't actually learned anything new from Ricky Gervais. It's all the original arguments, and he just rewords them and presents them as new. I mean, for example, this one, I think is inspired by Karl Marx, who said it, that if you want to see who rules you, look at who you're not allowed to criticize. So it's just reworded it that the the greatest trick was not to believe in God, but actually you can't ridicule him.
Yes.
Which is
It's
which
still
is
wise,
profound.
though, isn't it?
It's very
Even though-
wise.
Even though it's a repetition of a previous thought. But the thing is that Ricky has the microphone now, doesn't he? So he can
Do
promote
that.
some stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Look, I mean, then sorry, there's nothing against him. I mean, obviously, and he's a comedian, so he obviously would go from that angle as well.
Yes.
And they can take a lot of liberty in
Yes.
raising these issues, and there's no shame in using all of them. Sometimes I just feel that he says it as though, like, for example, whenever I say something like that, I say, well, so and so said it. So I'm not repackaging and selling it as my own. Even though a lot of these ideas are regurgitated. Like I say that I heard these arguments for the first time from Richard Dawkins, but Dawkins himself had read it or heard it from other people.
There's,
so it just
there's
keeps them going.
precious little that's new under the sun. But
Yeah.
John, when you were in Afghanistan, I don't suppose you had access to the television on which Ricky Gervais was performing, did you?
No,
No, so
it's a little limited.
yes.
It's
So-
a little limited.
So
But
you'd have to YouTube to see his funny monologues.
Not even that.
Well, I mean, now you're back in the US.
Yeah.
Well,
back
I
in
think
the
he's not a
US.
fan of Ricky Gervais. I think
Yeah.
it's safe to say he's not a fan of Ricky Gervais. But in Afghanistan, you had far more other ways of entertainment. I heard WWE divas make quite a lot of appearances there.
Yeah, it's funny about the way things go. I lived in Venezuela for 4 years, 90 to 94, fantastic country.
Yeah.
They loved Americans. Everybody's dream was to go to Miami,
Hmm.
and look what happened. So you never know. For instance, Afghanistan, what's going to happen? Something
Yeah.
wonderful could happen there in the next 20 years, or it could get far worse. You just don't know.
But I think the point is, the previous caller made as well, that whatever has to happen, it has to happen indigenously.
Yes.
It cannot be forced upon. Liberty and freedom, these ideas
Right.
cannot be forced upon. But one thing that and you can give a bit of an excuse to America, that they were spoiled by Second World War. Germany was bombed into liberation, and so was Japan. So they probably thought that that's the same model that we can apply in these other countries. And I mean, Iraq looks far better than Afghanistan. I have high hopes for Iraq. The democracy is somehow still going on, and I mean, last I checked, I don't think there's any chance of ISIS coming back or any other radical Islamist militia to take over Iraq, kind of like how Afghanistan has been taken. That's just so sad. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, you're right, Harris, because take for example Northern Ireland, which has had troubles for 30 years, and it's labelled Protestants against Roman Catholics. It's not as simple as that, but that's the way it divides. So the one side or the other called on the British Army to come and sort it out. And so the British Army went there and committed a few atrocities while they were there. And shortly after they'd been invited to come, suddenly they got relabeled as the invaders. You can't solve a population's problems from outside. They have to decide to sort themselves out. You're just going to be labeled the invaders sooner or later.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, John, for joining us again. That's always nice to talk to you and get your insight on military matters, I think.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Definitely.
All right. Let's get on to the next news story. Couple of quick ones. And Chavakai Super Chat saying, I think Hindu radicalism is an inevitable reaction. It will rise until it matches Islamic radicalization. It will keep rising until it matches Islamic radicalism. I don't see any solution for it. Only practical solution is to make Pakistan secular soon. Well, yeah, but the problem here is, even if Pakistan gets its shit sorted, how is that going to solve the hatred that these Hindu fanatics have already been have already come across of Muslims? how is that going to sort it out? It's kind of like, I'll give you an example. Saudi Arabia has moved away from exporting of jihadi literature. Now they are saying, okay, well, sorry, gotcha, we got you in this mess, but now we're leaving. But is that going to wipe out this jihadi madrasa culture in Pakistan and radicalization of millions of Pakistani young kids? No, it's going to take us a long time to overcome that. The same, even if Pakistan stops infiltrating in Kashmir and Islamization or fanning the fumes of Islamic radicalization in India, even immediately, Pakistan stops immediately, which I think they have wound back a lot. But if they do, then what? You reckon these Hindu fanatics who are chanting Jai Shri Ram, or forcing people to chant Jai Shri Ram, you think they'll be gone? No, that just never works that way. So I think Indians have to take responsibility as well, and they need to start. They need to start holding these people accountable. But I don't think that's happening. Speaking of which, have a look at this. This is something. I think this is far worse than whatever I've spoken about so far. So there was a video, there was a news story that went viral. It was very shocking in India. And an eight-year-old girl she went to a temple to get some water. A priest, Hindu priest, abducted her, gang raped her, told the family that she died, she got electrocuted. So now we have to cremate her body now. They did it, but the villagers found out that she was raped and murdered and forcefully cremated. Then it hit the news channel. We covered it as well last week. So India's largest party, Indian National Congress's leader, Rahul Gandhi, went to the victim's family, showed some solidarity or what they normally do. So, okay, some people can say, well, this is political point scoring, whatever, but that's what politicians do. But it also sends a strong message that what's happening shouldn't happen. As a result, guess what happened? This is the direction India is going, and unfortunately, Twitter is going with them. Rahul Gandhi and many Congress leaders' Twitter accounts locked. Twitter banned India's largest opposition party, Indian National Congress's leader and their official Twitter accounts locked. Let that sink in. It's like, and this is what I said when they did that with Trump. Never been a fan of Trump. This is a dangerous precedent. Trump's Twitter account, US president Twitter account, was locked and banned right at the very end. They were clever. They played it cleverly right at the very end of his administration. But imagine that Twitter, Facebook have the power to shut down the Twitter accounts or the platforms of politicians, leader of the opposition. They've done that with India's opposition. This guy has won. His party has won second largest number of votes in the entire world. One was Modi himself. Second was him, and obviously then I think America turns out to be the largest democracy after India. That is how bad things are going. So Sonal, one of the journalists, said it's not just the handles of Congress Party and Rahul Gandhi. Twitter has already locked more than 5,000 accounts of Congress leaders and other workers across India account to SM. And what was the reason? Twitter blocks Congress official handles, several leaders' account locked. The reason was a virtual war erupted between Twitter India and Congress on Thursday after the social media platform blocked the party's official handle and the accounts of several senior leaders. The move comes just days after Twitter blocked former Congress President Rahul Gandhi for posting a photograph of the parents of a 9-year-old girl who was allegedly raped and murdered in Delhi. I mean, what can I say? How do you see this, John? How dangerous is this precedent? Started with blocking of Trump's account, but not a Republican Party's account. This is worse. It's gone beyond that.
It's a tricky issue, isn't it? I'm not in favor of banning people's speech. I'm in favor of free speech, but the trouble is when people are spreading misinformation, then there's the general good of the population to be taken into account. Last week, didn't we talk about this this ex-nurse who was spreading information about the vaccines being harmful? That's the sort of thing that I would be in favor of banning. But who's going to make these judgments? We need a team of people who are ethically informed or something. Anyway,
we can talk about, I mean, that is obviously individuals doing that. But unfortunately, parliaments, assemblies, and heads of states and politicians, at least they are representatives. Yes. They're representing their electorate. At least those people can say things that even we don't like. But here, in this case, nothing happened. This is purely political reason. He was condemning the government, and he went to show solidarity with the victim of a 9-year-old girl who was raped and murdered.
Yes,
there is nothing about that. And but again, it's a wider crackdown, and platforms like Twitter are giving in to Modi. Now, Modi has been called, I think, second, or he was in one of these latest reports, that he's the biggest predator of press freedom. Imran Khan featured that list as well. So they are shutting down in supposed democracies, and these are the tools. That's just so alarming. I think this is terrible.
Well, it's typical of dictators, isn't it, who want to censor anybody who's against them. And
yeah, but I can imagine that coming out of North Korea. I can imagine that coming out of Saddam Hussein's time, or Muammar Gaddafi, or Hosni Mubarak. But it's happening in India.
Yes,
supposedly world's largest democracy.
Well, the trouble is, democracy is a fragile beast. Even Trump was on the brink of turning America into a dictatorship following January the 6th.
Yeah, well, that is okay.
I'm going to love you and leave you now because it's my lunchtime.
What about you do your news stories that you wanted to do?
Well, they will now be published very shortly on my YouTube channel, which is called, what's it called? Oh yeah,
Free Thought Productions. Nice, guys, do check out Free Thought Production. Okay,
yeah, you'll be able to see Global Atheist News there with all the items that I couldn't get out yesterday because I was censored by Netflix.
Right.
Anyway, I want to leave you with the report. That's it. That's my channel. You'll know it when you see it.
Yeah.
And I'm just about to upload yesterday's Global Atheist News to that channel. But I want to leave you with a report of a conflict between India and England.
All right.
Currently, the second test match is underway.
I know.
And the first two innings were very close. I think England ended up with a 27-run lead, which is trivial for a first innings lead. But now India are batting for the second time, and they are on 60 for 3.
And they're 33 runs ahead with 7 wickets in hand. I reckon they're going to give the target of 250 with 3 or 4 sessions.
That's
left.
Possible.
No, hang on. 33 runs. It's already 2 o'clock. So they've got, what time do you guys play until? Minimum over 60 overs remaining. Jeez, you guys play till late. So in 60 overs, they're probably going to put on another 200 runs.
Possibly.
Possibly it's the 230.
You need to factor into that Virat Kohli is out. He's there.
He's been getting out. I looked at it. His average is like in 12 or 13 in the last 2 years or something, test average. So he's gone downhill massively. So anyway, he got out on 20, I think.
Yes,
all right. Well, good luck.
There's Pant still to come. So watch this space.
Right. Okay. All right, guys. All right, Johnny. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, folks. So we got another super chat. At least we can make a moral argument against Hindu radicals and when Pakistan becomes secular. No, I don't think you would be able to. You can still make a moral argument. You got nothing to do with Pakistan. If anything, you can make a moral argument. Look how terrible Pakistan is because they wanted to make an Islamic Republic. But they can turn that around and they can say, that's why we're trying to save India from that as well. To prevent India from becoming Islamic Republic of India, we're trying to make it a Hindu Republic of India. That's what they would say. But anyway. All right. Now, let's just blow through some of these News story. So Pakistan made another world record. This time, not in Olympics. Olympics recently conducted, but Pakistan, as we know, has been going crazy with this blasphemy. And Richard Dawkins spoke about it. It says 8-year-old becomes youngest person charged with blasphemy. A Hindu boy faces possible death penalty after being accused of intentionally urinating in a madrasa library. So we spoke about it, and Dawkins tweeted it and quoted Christopher Hitchens, "Religion poisons everything." As you guys know, I played this video a couple of weeks ago where this Hindu temple was violently attacked by a mob of angry Muslims. So the reason for that was a Hindu boy went to a madrasa, or I think it was a madrasa, not a mosque. He went to a madrasa where there were so many Islamic literature books, and he said when something is not allowed in or something, and then the local imam, actually yelled at him, and he unfortunately urinated in his pants. He peed in his pants. So, as any 8-year-old boy probably could, he got scared, whatever. Okay, so they got angry. They said he intentionally urinated to disrespect our beautiful religion, and the imam announced it to a mob, to local people, and it turned into a mob, and you saw what happened after that. This is what happened after that. Let me share that with you. Actually never works, but I'll try it. Here we go. So basically they demolished that temple, and that was the context of that. But what happened afterwards, obviously, Pakistan was embarrassed, as they should be. Everyone spoke about it. They instantly arrested something like 50 people or something, charged them with blasphemy. Finally, Muslims are also getting arrested for blaspheming against non-Islamic faith. So Monday, the temple was restored at record pace, and now it was handed over back to Hindus after renovating. So they renovated very quickly. That was very good. So the credit where it's due. But this is not going to get any better, because our Prime Minister again emphasized that Pakistan will not tolerate even the slightest disrespect and insolence against our beloved Prophet Hazrat Muhammad. He keeps peddling this narrative. And when they say we would not tolerate even slightest, so what people take it as, he pissed in our mosque, therefore we are not going to tolerate anything, and therefore we're going to take it. No matter how many times he says that, no, we don't mean that ordinary people should take law into their own hands. No matter how many times you peddle that narrative or bullshit, no one's ever going to buy it. And that's why, as I say, in India, it's getting worse and worse when it comes to Hindu fanaticism, Indian nationalism, jingoism. In Pakistan, the blasphemy has been getting worse and worse. The narrative of blasphemy is getting worse and worse, and you will keep seeing these videos. I will keep seeing these videos once or twice every week or fortnight. It's not going anywhere, and that is all because of this pathetic narrative that they've been taken out. But I just want to say that, and this is something just to show you how fair I am. They arrested and charged the boy with blasphemy, an 8-year-old boy, for urinating inside a mosque or a madrasa. But look how Prophet Muhammad took it. Have a look at this one. This is Sunan ibn Majah, Hassan Hadith, meaning this is almost Sahih, so this almost happened. A Bedouin entered the mosque when the Messenger of Allah was sitting there, and the man said, "Oh Allah, forgive me and Muhammad, and do not forgive anyone else with us." So this is what a man said. So the Messenger of Allah smiled and said, "You have placed restrictions on something that is very vast," meaning only Allah has power over it. So anyway, then the Bedouin, I don't know what got in his head, but the Bedouin turned away, went to a corner of the mosque, spread his legs, and began to urinate. So he urinated inside a mosque. After he had a better understanding, the Bedouin said, he got up and came to me and said, "And may my father and mother be ransomed for him. He did not rebuke me nor revile me," blah, 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 whatever the crap they're talking. He said, "This mosque is not for urinating in. Rather, it is built for the remembrance of Allah and prayer." Then he called for a large vessel of water and poured it over the place where he had urinated. So basically, apart from the mother, father, blessing God, Allah, whatever crap that he was talking about, apart from all of that, Muhammad didn't even punish the guy for urinating inside a mosque. So why are these guys doing it? That shows that this blasphemy part has gotten way out of control in the 21st century Muslims. So something that, and by the way, this should not be taken lightly. Prophet Muhammad is a guy who would behead a lot of people in one day, 700 in one day, 700 Jews in one day, sex slavery, all of that, going inside temples, demolishing idols. So that's a pretty tough guy by today's standards. Even he would not punish someone for urinating intentionally inside of a mosque. And here these guys are blaming an 8-year-old child for urinating inside a mosque accidentally. So that just shows you how screwed these people are now, because thanks to religious nuttery. By the way, in the good news is happy ending. The guy was, after all this hoo-ha, went crazy, and everyone pointed that out. The Pakistani prime minister actually, no, not prime minister, some form of ministry said, oh, this is ridiculous. And they released the boy after having him for 4 days in prison, but now he's in hiding and he's away. So that's a good bit of it at the end. Okay, let's just take another one. So speaking of Pakistani minorities, and I've spoken about it numerous times, and as you guys know, Hindu girls in Sindh are regularly abducted and forcefully converted to Islam. We covered 2 stories last week. And in Punjab, Christian girls are converted. And I think I spoke about this last week, of this girl, Chasham Kamal. She was a 14-year-old girl. She was abducted when parents went to the police station. They registered a case. But the very next day, on 29th of July, the police came back to the parents and said, well, she has converted to Islam and already married to a Muslim guy. That's quite a regular occurrence. Anyone who's familiar with my playlist Minorities in Pakistan, you can go and have a look. Thousands of girls, according to a news report, Dawn, it's the largest circulating Pakistani English newspaper, said 1,000 girls are abducted every year and converted to Islam. So that's one such story. But another news story, Dawn reported another news. A Christian couple on Wednesday alleged the abduction, forced conversion, and marriage of their underage daughter. They also accused the local PTI leader, meaning the man from the party of Imran Khan, that him and police of supporting the accused. The girl's mother, Noreen Masih of Mubin Banda area in Ghazi Tehsil, reported the matter to the police and released a video message along with the husband, Francis Masih. In a written complaint, she told the police that her daughter, a 9th grader, went missing from her room at around 12:45 on August the 3rd while preparing for her exam paper next morning. And up until the latest reports, nobody knows where she went. She just vanished into a thin air, but it is quite reasonable to assume that she has been kidnapped by a Muslim man, and she is happily ever after married to this Muslim man. That is most likely the outcome. That is going to be the outcome once we find out about that. Okay, let's done that in fanaticism. Okay, so speaking of minorities, there was a kind of a good news, and I have always said that it is important that politicians talk about it, and they must talk about it. Our Human Rights Minister said National Minorities Day, 11th of August, is a reaffirmation of the vision of our founding father, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and a commitment to uphold the rights of minorities embodied in our constitution. What rights? Rights like no non-Muslim can ever become a president or prime minister of Pakistan. That kind of rights, right? This is our obligation, and we must stay on track to fulfill this duty, not through mere words, but actions on the ground. All right, with all the skepticism and cynicism, I'll take with a pinch of salt. But anyway, thank you very much, Dr. Shireen Mazari, for emphasizing on that. And our foreign minister also released a video about human rights, the importance of minorities and their human rights. Have a look what he had to say. This is our foreign minister.
Today, on Pakistan's National Minority Day, I would like to reiterate Pakistan's commitment to all minorities, regardless of class, color, creed. You are citizens of Pakistan and you would be treated alike. In accordance with the vision of the founding father of Pakistan, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who very categorically said, you'll all be equal in the eyes of law. The laws of Pakistan protect minorities of Pakistan. We respect them. They have contributed significantly to our socio-economic development. Look at the education, health sectors Pakistani minorities have contributed. Today, there's religious freedom in Pakistan. You can go to your churches, you can go to your gurdwaras.
All right, people. Sorry about this disconnection. Just the internet went down a little bit. Okay, so, our foreign minister and our human rights minister talking about the importance of minorities and celebrating National Minorities Day. The only criticism that I'm going to have is that why the Prime Minister didn't talk about it, and also why did they not talk about it in Urdu, the official language? You don't need to tell us, the civilized English-speaking people, that we have minorities in Pakistan and Pakistan respects them. We need to tell the masses who put 8-year-old boys in prison for accidentally urinating in temples, or those people who think that Hindu and Christian girls are fair game, abduct them in broad daylight and marry them, forcefully convert them to Islam, and then marry them all, and marry with them. So those ones, that's what you need to talk about, and you need to speak about it in Urdu. I don't know why they wouldn't do that, but other than that, I would still say, okay, I'll take it. Thank you for mentioning that, and thank you for talking about it, but you need to do a lot more than just these bullshit empty words that you just iterated. Okay. I just want to, I think I'm done with all my news stories. So I'm just sharing the images. Apart from that, there's one more news story that I want to talk about. And I think this is very important. And I think we've spoken about it before as well. Let me see. I hope I have the stats. Right. So there was this event that shook Pakistan just recently, last week. A 27-year-old girl was brutally killed and then beheaded by her boyfriend. It outraged the country. Even Prime Minister Imran Khan said that we will make sure that this guy gets justice. His parents also tried to cover it up. They were also arrested, and so they are going to prison. But we were waiting that when these do-gooder, self-righteous, virtuous people, when will they start blaming the victim? And it happened. One of Pakistan's biggest journalists, not large, sorry, his name is also Imran Khan. So anyway, so he's now trying to go by Imran Riaz Khan. He said he blames Noor Muqaddam, this girl on the left who was beheaded by her boyfriend, for not following society rules. So thousands upon thousands of women in Pakistan are abused and beaten up and even murdered by their husbands, who are perfectly following the society rules, meaning no boyfriends, girlfriends, just getting married as they're told, and then they're still beaten up and murdered in some cases by their husbands. So what society rules are you talking about then? The only reason why he wanted to talk about this is because there was a loophole. Both of these guys were kind of liberals and modern, foreign-going, English-speaking people, and they were not even married. So it was like a boyfriend and a girlfriend relationship that was gone wrong. That went wrong. So he goes, here's my opportunity to shit on liberalism. And he condemned and he blamed the poor girl and her entire family for not keeping an eye on their daughter. And as rightfully, I want to say to him, what other society rules would you want people to follow? As many as 2,960 major crimes against children were reported in the 4 provinces, including Islamabad, Azad Jammu Kashmir, and Gilgit-Baltistan. In 2020 alone, 8 children were abused every day in Pakistan in one form or the other, out of which 51% of the victims were girls and 49% boys. Now, these kids are following society rules by which they're just going to schools, they're going to madrasas. Most of these crimes have actually taken place in madrasas. And as I shared last time, 82% of rape victims in Pakistan, according to a gynecologist survey, were raped by their fathers, brothers, fathers, brothers, uncles, and grandparents. That's what happened in that case. Why is this annoying fly here? Okay, so what society rules are you talking about that, Imran Riaz Khan? Obviously, he's not going to say anything about it. In that case, they say, oh, well, these kind of incidents take place everywhere. Look at the West. So one can easily say that this is literally one such case. Is literally the only case in my memory that happened amongst the high elite of Pakistan, the so-called liberals, because liberalism is considered a cuss word in Pakistan. They literally say that, oh, that's just the liberal people. That's the ideology of liberals. They use that as a cuss word. So also, this report just came out. Pakistan police report submitted a report in Lahore High Court that in the 8 months alone in the current year, 34,000 cases of rape have been reported. According to Imran Khan himself, the actual cases are 4 times more than what is reported. So that means 240,000 cases in the whole year, if we average it out. In 7 months, 34,000. Over a year, it would be 60,000, and if you time it by 4, it would be 240,000. But some people have actually said as much as 10 times more cases actually take place than what is reported. So what society rules are these guys following? What are you going to do now? Are you going to separate fathers and children, fathers from their daughters, brothers from their sisters, and their grandparents? Is that what you're going to do? They're following society rules. If you're going to lock them up inside houses, so less you go out, less likely you are to get raped by a stranger. But what they don't realize is more you're going to get raped by your own family members. And that's exactly what's happened. 82%. Let me share that news story again. I will include the link in the description. So that's what it is. Let's just I think wrap it up. I'm just going to take some calls from people who have been waiting. I've opened the line. Let's just take humanist, atheist. Sorry, what would you like to say?
Yes, Haris, can you hear me?
I can hear you. What would you like to say?
Yeah. So, I'm just following all this news of Taliban taking over, and really sad and disappointed. So many people that we have supported here, all the Muslim friends, against Sanghi, all these Sanatunis. Now, these guys are also celebrating, which makes me feel that where we are, I guess these are just bigots, thriving on our support right now, and perhaps we are minority. These guys are celebrating something which they are despising on the other side. What
Yeah.
do you
Well, I've spoken about it so many times. All these guys who are actually celebrating the rise of Taliban and people in India and Pakistan, Muslims in India and Pakistan who are celebrating that, they're a bunch of idiots. None of them would live in Taliban-ruled Afghanistan. None of them would. The clear demonstration of my statement is these people, the thousands of people fleeing from Afghanistan. People in Afghanistan, people of Afghanistan are fleeing from them. And the only reason why these guys are celebrating it, they're celebrating it because they think, United States lost. So their hatred for United States, they would get in bed with people like Taliban. And the only thing they share that with Taliban is Islam. That's the only reason that they are. I think they will get a reality check very soon. Let China get a little bit bigger and more ambitious, and China will be following totally different rules of engagement. Forget about Western standard of human rights. There will be no human rights. There will be brutal overtake of Afghanistan if China goes that way. I don't think China is that ambitious yet. China doesn't really like to go into other countries, but China has invested a lot of money in Afghanistan. So there's a lot of Chinese investment, a lot of Indian investment. India is unfortunately not strong enough to go there, but China has a lot of money invested in Afghanistan. And if Taliban don't comply or obey with China, well, that's going to get that is going to get very, very interesting, because China can only look at Pakistan Army and Imran Khan and say, hey, give me safe passage into Afghanistan. And our prime minister will say, all right, sir, here you go. And when we do that, then again, now Pakistan will face the brunt of Taliban response, and there will be lots of suicide bombings. Pakistan had already lost 70,000 civilians because Pakistan supposedly sided with America, which America still doesn't own. And as a as a result of that, Taliban got angry at Pakistan, and then they had there were suicide bombings every day, and 70,000 Pakistani civilians died. So what's going to happen when China forces Pakistan to take its side and let them go into Afghanistan? Who knows that? But again, that's just I'm just imagining now. I don't think China has any intentions of doing that, because I think the Taliban have matured just a little bit. They would not provoke China. I think they would also understand. But Chinese are atheists. At the end of the day, Afghan goal is to have Islam all over the world. And there might be some resentment in Taliban as well about what's been happening with Uyghur Muslims. So who knows? I think this is going to be very interesting, but that's going to be very bad for the region.
So we'll see. Thanks, Harris.
Thank you very much. All right. That was Humanist Atheist. Let's take Julia. What would you like to say?
Hi, Harris. How are you doing?
Good.
Yeah, I more or less I agree with you that U.S. didn't achieve its mission to make a democratic government in Afghanistan. That's why it was such a waste of 20 years, so many American lives. And so mission it was unaccomplished. So from this perspective, I think...
I don't think so, though. I mean, I don't think so. Their primary mission was to bring Osama bin Laden and Taliban to justice, which they did. The other goal was a secondary goal, that it doesn't happen in future. So we will bring Afghanistan to 21st century civilization. They failed in that, but that's more of a failure of Afghanistan than America. That you are not capable of creating a civilized democratic government. That's what it says. So if you want to say that, United States has not paid any price for going into Afghanistan. Soviet Union got disintegrated. United States hasn't. It's still the world's largest economy, most powerful military. Their economy is still rising. Everything's fine, hunky-dory with the United States. So they haven't really lost. This is just a forced imposing the failure in America. And I think it doesn't matter. I mean, it's the way to look at it. You can. That the United States failed to make Afghanistan a civilized country. But I say that's more of a failure of Afghanistan than America.
No, I agree with you. I'm here in the U.S., so I'm not saying U.S. lost, but I said they didn't achieve their mission. Initially.
But don't you think their mission was to bring bin Laden and Taliban to justice?
No, I know that was their primary concern. In fact, when 9/11 happened, and U.S. were asking Taliban to give them Osama bin Laden, and if they would have given them, the war wouldn't have happened. Taliban refused. I was reading. I was not reading actually. I saw one YouTube video where it said that Pakistan had sent one of the general to talk to Taliban at that time, to tell them to hand over Osama bin Laden. But that guy was like a Islamist or whatever. So he was doing double speak, and he was doing double speak, and he actually told them that don't hand over Osama bin Laden to them. So I don't know how true is to that statement, but if they would have done it, but Mullah Omar and they were driven by Islamist ideology, and They didn't do it, and that's what all this happened, the war and everything. And the other thing, about Pakistan, Pakistan, when America is so mad about it, because since the beginning of this war, there's this Haqqani network, right? And ISI was indirectly supporting, and there has been like Achilles heel for American lawmakers about the Haqqani network. And, that's why they are so pissed at Pakistan, that through them, they supported Taliban and whatnot. And, going back before I forget my other point, initially, when in the 90s, when the US left Afghanistan and all, and they left it, Pakistan felt abandoned, and Afghanistan also. It went into chaos with all the new leaders. At that time, Taliban came into, because there were a lot of rapes and a lot of disorder happening in Afghanistan. And Taliban came and they started, because there were a lot of atrocities committed by those who came in power after US left. And initially, people welcomed Taliban, because Taliban, if you can look at the history, initially people welcomed Taliban because the other guys, they were equally horrendous, the one who were ruling them. So, it's a very complicated story, but I think I do agree that this is like a firebomb for everybody. Whoever is going to go near it is going to get burned. Maybe India, Pakistan, China, whatever. And Chinese are smart. I don't think China will send their military or anything.
I don't think so either. It's just something that I was thinking out loud, that if that happens, it'll be very different. It'll be a different ball game. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Okay. One more last point. I saw a video from Oria Makbul Jan. And he was making a point. This was he was responding to. There was a reports that Turkey was going to protect the Kabul airport. So Turkey was going to send military personnel to protect the Kabul airport, and he was miffed that why Turkey is being an Islamic country, why it is against Taliban. It was protecting against Taliban forces. His point was that all these Muslim countries, because if Taliban becomes a administration, it becomes like a model for other Islamic countries, so they are scared. Like Turkey will be scared, and it will become a model for them. So I don't know. It didn't make any sense.
Well, it's true. No, it does make sense because Oria Makbul Jan is a jihadi. He's an Islamist. He's a jihadi, and he idolizes ISIS and he idolizes Taliban. Actually, no, he doesn't idolize ISIS, but he idolizes Taliban. And these kind of idiots should be deported, sent to Afghanistan, live amongst Taliban. Let's see if his kids can go out. His kids study in America and Britain, either America or Britain, I don't know where. And these kind of Oria Makbul Jans are the biggest curse on Pakistan. They peddle violent Islamist narrative, while the kids enjoy the luxury of the modern world, but they want the local people to live under idiots like Taliban. Even, of course, Turkey would not accept that, because Turkey, as bad as it is, still a modern democratic state, as sham of a democracy as it might be. It's not really that much of a sham, but whatever it is, with all its failures, it's not Taliban, it's not Afghanistan. And nobody would want to live in Afghanistan. So sorry, Makbul Jan. I despise these kind of people. Anyway, thank you for coming.
All right, thank you.
All right, so last news story I forgot earlier. I spoke with this individual, Yati Narsingh a few months ago, and he is known for his very aggressive Hindutva, not Hindutva, I probably wouldn't even call Hindutva. He's one of those people who parrot the narrative that Muslims are coming and they're going to take over India. So then you need to prepare for the holy war. And obviously, I disagree with his political stance. I spoke against it. Even when I spoke to him, I said, you're paranoid. I don't buy any of your narrative, etc. But in another news, his temple was attacked. And initially, we thought it was him who was attacked, but it was actually one of his disciples who was attacked. His name was very similar to the guy in question, Narsingh Anand. So everyone initially thought that it was him who was attacked, but it was actually one of his disciples who was attacked. Nevertheless, shouldn't have happened, and strongly condemn that. And I want and I want to say to those jihadis who think that attacking people like this, you're not going to achieve anything. If anything, the other side is going to get stronger, and they're going to mobilize more people, and they're going to stand up, and then you're going to be on the receiving end, because this is a war you can never win. You're only 20% of India are Hindus, and only Muslims, and only very small percentage of that share your narrative of violent takeover or Islamization of India. That's not going to happen. As a result, what you're doing, you're radicalizing Hindus, and because by virtue of sheer numbers, 80% of Hindus are Hindus. Indians are Hindus. So they're gonna recruit more and more people. And the video that I shared earlier, these kind of chants are gonna become more and more frequent. As much as I can condemn them, but this kind of narrative is gonna popularize a lot more. Have a look at this. So these kind of violent Hindutva, Hindu fanatics are getting more and more numerous. And they're openly chanting that we're going to kill Muslims. We will slaughter them. And if you want to live in India, you have to say Jai Shri Ram, a Hindu slogan, praising to deity Ram. And you have to prove your loyalty to Indian flag. And by that, they only mean that if you agree with our version of India. So attacks like these on Hindu politicians, Hindu extremists as well, physical, violent attacks like that, that's only going to give rise to these people. By the way, just on a side note, when I spoke with this guy, Yatina Singh Anand, he told me, he said, he predicted that within 2 years he'll be killed. I think within 2 years or within 1 year, I can't remember. Now that part, I said, you're not paranoid. That's very likely that's going to happen. But he said, son, Haris, don't forget me when I am assassinated, because because that's likely to happen. These Islamist jihadis are going to do that, and I want you to talk about me when that happens. So I actually tweeted about it. Unfortunately, I thought it was him who got attacked, but it wasn't him. So I wish him best of luck. I wish that he takes good care of his security, and all these Muslim Islamist jihadis, I would say to them, well, they're not going to listen to me, but I will still say this common sense. More you carry out these kind of activities, more they're going to get more in number. And unfortunately, I do think the other way around, that there's a mass atrocity against Muslims is going to happen in India. And it's only a matter of time. Maybe some of these Islamist jihadis, they want that to happen so they can mobilize more and more people to promote their ideology. So that's just all there is. All right, guys, I think this is it. I think we are done for today. Thank you very much, all of you who joined and took part in the conversation. Until next time.